SheCan, we lead with women's stories. We show how we got to where we are today, and we interview women from all walks of life and all over the world. And I'm really excited to welcome you back to SheCan. And hi, Jenny Parker. I am interviewing you for our Women Investor series today because you are an angel investor in many different companies, and you're also an e-commerce specialist at Cheetham House Consultants. You're a board member at the Manchester Angels. Tell us a bit more about you and what you do.
Okay, so my story really starts straight out of university. I did a product design and marketing degree going back 30-ish years. And I founded my business straight out of that whole process. So I did a BSc and I developed some products as part of that and took them to market essentially. So it was a real baptism of fire. But I really felt that I wanted to tread my own path. I didn't really want to be sort of confined by sort of a corporate or that kind of atmosphere. I've always been maybe a bit of a line stepper, if you like. So I really had that drive to do something for myself. I had great support from my family, from my network around me. You know, they really gave me the confidence to go for it. So that's what I did. I set up my original business in 1999, which was an equestrian-based business producing products for horses, essentially. Got some quite big clients, had the mounted police, for instance, and a couple of quite famous eventers, like Zara Phillips, for instance. You know, I had quite big clients at the time and went around shows and events because this was kind of like at the birth of internet and e-commerce, so around about 99, 2000. I'd always worked and looked at what was going on in the internet, though, through my degree process, because design, marketing, innovation, it was always at the forefront of what was coming next. And I always thought that, you know, the next stage is going to be having some kind of retail space online, because at that time it was kind of like, you know, BA had a front page and they were talking about what BA was and all that kind of stuff. And it was always very much, you know, the search engines were sort of Ask Jeeves and all that kind of stuff. So I always thought the next sort of iteration of what was happening would be sort of e-commerce, well, what it became e-commerce, and having a storefront there. So it's very rogue at the time, and I didn't really have any business mentors, I would say. I had a couple of people that sort of said to me things along the lines of, older men, I'd say, said, don't be such a stupid girl. No one's ever going to buy anything online. And I was like, we'll see about that. So that sort of set me on my journey of proving them wrong, really, in partly. And also I had real ambition to really have, you know, tread my own path, I suppose. So I set up a business selling products online. Very much, it was very Wild West, and very learning on the job. And it was just me on my own with a support from some developers that I was sort of introduced to through the bank, actually, through NatWest. So that was a real sort of marriage made in heaven. Set up that business, started selling online, which sounds very a quick thing to do. But it wasn't. It was very much a learning process, very much, you know, what's coming next. This was before sort of Google was running any sort of AdWords campaigns, things like that. It's all at the start of it. Relatively successful. And then I thought to myself, I need something alongside what I'm doing here to add credibility to my own brand, my own product. So started working with Barbour, who were looking to expand into the equestrian space at the time. And they very quickly became, you know, my number one, really, and worked with them probably for the next 18 to 20 years. And as they saw what we were doing and selling online with Barbour, sort of having other brands approach me like Hunter and Jules, and, you know, very much like a country-based offering, because we were still exhibiting at country shows with the equestrian side of things. So it becoming more rounded in terms of what was going on in e-commerce and what was going on a face-to-face model as well. Grew that business got on many more brands. 2012 was a real turning point. We decided that, yeah, we're doing really well in sort of the country space, but what does that demographic look like? I suppose I had about 20 to 30 staff at the time across marketing, grew it very organically. It was bootstrapped completely. Everything that we made put straight back into the business. Had great support. My brother became my key developer, and he wasn't my husband at the time, but became my husband. He was very supportive as well and had a key role, and we grew the business as a threesome. We started attracting more brands in 2012. You know, we went on a whole journey of acquisition and started thinking, right, if we've got customers who are buying into Barbour and Jules, and what else do they buy? You know, all the brands to sit alongside it. So we went on a real acquisition of growing the business in a slightly different niche. That was successful. Kissed a few frogs along the way. Some of the brands, you know, came and went. And then, yeah, really grew that business. We ended up at, I think, in 2018, we were turning over about 18 million. And we were highly profitable, which was the key. So we exited and sold that business in March 2018 to a larger group who were looking to really lean into the lifestyle offering across different markets. So from anything from skating to surfing to snowboards to skiing, and it really fitted in the lifestyle side of things. So yeah, I stayed on with that business for about 18 months and led their marketing. That business was turning over about 120 million. So I led the marketing side of that, and I think there was about 14 different websites as part of that group. Got to a point where not was burnt out, but I felt it was time that I needed to take a step back and really reassess what I wanted to do on the next stage. I felt like my business had sort of grown up. It was sort of 18 years old. I was like, time for it to leave home and not talk to me again. So I let it have its own freedom. And that's what we did. So kind of I thought, right, I need to take a bit of time, reassess what we want. I was really interested in angel investing and, you know, helping startups and mentoring those underrepresented groups, women in business, women founders who are looking for investment. I wanted to champion those, I suppose. So I took a bit of time out, and then of course COVID happened, and which was kind of an enforced slowdown. And as soon as we sort of went through that whole process, the phone started ringing, and I started getting contacts from people who wanted my help with startups. And started operating in a sort of consultancy capacity in e-commerce in particular. So across beauty, fashion, furniture, other lifestyle products. So I started working across those. And at the same time, I started working with Manchester Angels, that was a newly founded group. And we were really sort of focusing in on tech space, very ethical way of looking at business as well. What's underserved. So water filtration was one. Reduction of child labour in the supply chain. Ethical production of clothing. Recycling of fashion and apparel and footwear. So yeah, that's what we're up to at the moment. So I sit on the board for Manchester Angels, so we see a lot of pitch decks, and we work very closely with Cambridge Angels as well, who are very much more focused on sort of pharmaceuticals and tech. So we have a nice working relationship with those guys, and we co-invest on various things. So yeah, I think I've done about 8 angel investments at the moment, and I'm looking at a further two, but I'm going to probably stop at about 10. But then again, you never know. So that, in a kind of a very convoluted nutshell, is what my story is.
Such an amazing story. I would love to dive into your new role as an angel investor. You've already done 8 investments. You might do a further 2. What do they have in common? What is the thing that you're after?
So I think I've really got to be passionate about it and really feel that it's ethically the right thing to do. I think that's one of the key things I always look for. It's got to not be against my moral compass in any way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
And it's also got to add value to the wider community and the wider population out there. I think that's two really key points to me. I always really like to know that, or I don't necessarily, it's not exclusive, but I like to see female founders. I think the majority of my investments are female founders, and one I'm looking at the moment is a female founder because I do think they're so underrepresented, and the stats around what female founders actually do and their process through to exit are, stack up more than against men. So I tend to focus on those kind of three things as kind of what my sweet spot is, I suppose. So it could be at any stage, it could be pre-seed, it could be seed, it could be, round eight. It just depends on where they're up to in terms of their journey.
Okay. Jenny, and I understand obviously as an angel investor, you look at the rate of risk and return, right? And how does impact, because impact seems to be something that you really value, that is along your guidelines. How does impact come into that picture? How important it is, and how does that move that relationship between risk and return?
It's difficult to know really because I mean I'm a relatively new angel investor. I've only really been doing it for since 2021. So it's still relatively new, and all my investments are fairly new. I've not done any exits on any of my investments. It's too early stage. But impact is super important for me. It's I just think it's the right way to go about it. It's the ethical way of building a business. And I think if you approach business from that perspective, you can't go far wrong. I think when I was building my business, I always had a really strong moral compass. Things like you pay people on time, you don't mess about with bills, you're really upfront, you have those difficult conversations. You don't swerve anything and you don't take any shortcuts. And I think that they're really key to me. And that's part of the way I see the impact is now and how that's going to impact on the wider world. So that's super important to me. So that's how I see it sitting, I suppose.
Yeah, I love that, Jenny. It's being a conscious investor and just a conscious person doing the right thing. Jenny,
I
I'm
hope so.
wondering, what are you looking for in companies or founders? We know that you favor women. We know that women only get 2% of VC capital. It's a tiny amount. What do you look for in them?
I think there's a real compassion and across their business. They've got to be super, super passionate about what they do. I mean, they've got to know it inside and out. And things that have really impressed me are things like forecastings, those whole difficult spreadsheets to build, that whole those financial models, they're super important.
Yeah.
You can't swerve those at all. So I really look for a strong financial model. But yeah, just being really passionate and really knowing inside and out what they do. For instance, my background was I was very much into horses and outdoors, and that was my passion. That was what founded my business.
Mm.
And I think if that's what I look for in other female founders, why are you in this business? What's driven you to this point? What is there a gap in the market? Why you? Why are you the right fit? So answering all those questions, are really important for me, from female founders. But across any founder, really. It doesn't have to be female. It's got to be, is it the right fit for me as well? Can I get on with this person?
Mm.
Definitely work in all of the relationships in any of my businesses. Uh, they've got to be really in tune with who I am and what we're looking for, and uh, that kind of thing. They've got to be very relatable.
Jenny, and how is that relationship once you've made an investment? What is that relationship like? How much involvement do you have? Is there a lot of mentoring, business development? How much of that? How much is your involvement?
It depends on the business. It can be as much or as little as they want. If I generally, I feel that I can really add value to a business. That's the other thing that I really look for. When I'm doing an investment, it's got to be kind of in my wheelhouse, but I need to also be able to add value to that and leverage what I'm putting in. So yeah, in terms of what I can do, it's as much or as little as they want. So generally, I don't take board positions because my investment is normally small enough not to require that.
Yeah.
But some businesses will just say, can you recommend a brand agency or can you recommend such and such? So it's a black book as well.
Mm.
Who I've worked with in the past, who I can speak to, other investors, can I do introductions through that? So it just depends really. And if I feel like mentoring is more appropriate, I'm
Yeah.
here. And I'm not a traditional sort of mentor in that, you have to be it's checking in every week. It's like, talk to me on WhatsApp, talk to me on email, talk to me on various other things, in terms of keeping that connection. So yeah, it's much or as little as you want, really.
Jenny, and what tips would you have for, as we are now, recording this content for women founders to make it easier for them to go through this process that is really hard for women to go through, women founders. What would you tell them in terms of getting ready with a pitch deck and a presentation? What would your top tips be for that?
um, don't be afraid to ask for help. Definitely, lean into your network as well. Always sense check your presentations and your financial models. What else would you think? Trust your gut.
Mm.
Trust your gut. I find that really serves me well. If you think it's not the right fit for you, don't be afraid to walk away. If they're not the right investors, walk away and really trust yourself on that. I think I walked away from when I was selling my business, I walked away from about 4 to 5 different deals, all really good offers, but they weren't the right fit. They weren't aligned with where I thought the business was going and what I wanted to do. So yeah, really trust your gut and don't be afraid to ask for help. That's really, really important.
Jenny, and what is your longer term view? You've done 8 investment, you might do another 2. What are the areas that interest you?
I feel like I'm super interested in fashion and apparel, but not necessarily fashion in terms of that sort of transient kind of, wear once and chuck it in the bin. That for me is completely against all my morals. So I'm actually in the process of setting up a new business, which is another e-commerce business, very similar to what I'm doing at the moment, what I've done historically, sorry. And yeah, we're working with a lot of the brands that I work with historically, and I just feel like there's more to give. So yeah, getting that business up and running, trying it a second time around in a different reframed position, different marketing kind of aspect to it as well, as I see e-commerce is evolving. So going along that journey. So that's really fun for me. Supporting more women in the investor space.
Mhm.
Um, world's your oyster, really. I think we can really make a difference. So it's yeah, that's kind of what's on my sort of radar right now.
Jenny, that sounds very exciting. Are you able to tell us a bit more? How will you finance it? Where are you at with it at the moment?
It's launched about 2 months ago. It's called British-attire.com. So we're really focusing on British brands, but it's very much the British attitude to style. So we, as a British population, we very much are magpies, I would say, and we cherry pick the best from around the world. Although a lot of them have DNA in what was British heritage. So it's kind of very anti-fast fashion. It's product and brand and apparel that you'd have in your wardrobe forever. You know, things that would last you a lifetime, that you know and you love, and you get your own sort of DNA as part of that.
Mm.
I'm working with brands like Barbour and Belstaff and Hunter, and really key British brands, but other international brands like 66 Degrees North, like Didrikson's, Haglofs, all that kind of stuff. So it's very much kind of lifestyle product.
Yeah.
Um, but really telling that story and do more storytelling around what this all represents, what's it all mean, and having that relationship with the customer as an ongoing conversation. I think that's super important for us. So yeah, I'm part of a team of 4, maybe 5. We've got someone in the wings, another lady, hopefully. So yeah, it's fun. It's been fantastic to get back in touch with all those amazing people that I worked with over the last 20 years. And we just feel like there's more to do and just be really, really great as an e-commerce destination and a shopping destination for the wider world.
British attire. I can't wait to check that out. Jenny, I'm wondering, what do you feel are sort of the challenges as an entrepreneur and a second-time entrepreneur and also as an investor? What are those challenges that you face and how do you reframe them?
Yeah, and there's challenges in life on a day-to-day basis, isn't it? And I just think, we're very privileged in what we get to do on a day-to-day basis. There is, challenges such as things that come left field that you don't really anticipate. But it's kind of like you say, you just reframe them as an opportunity, not a challenge. You think, well, okay, that's happened, but what can I do, and take it on a step-by-step basis. You just chip away at those challenges, break it down into smaller chunks, and then that makes it a little bit more achievable, doesn't it? So that's the way that I tend to work. Not really view them as challenges, more of an opportunity. So that's the way I would do it.
Yeah, I love that. Jenny, so what would you describe your leadership style as?
Oh, I'm very collaborative. Um, I am not a dictator in any way, shape, or form. It's very much a democracy in our office. So yeah, we tend to take everyone's opinions on board, and my way is not necessarily the right way. Um, Very collaborative, lean into your wider network, your wider angels, your wider investors, and actually really develop my network is super important for me to getting those wider influences from the business community, and it could be from any industry. It doesn't really matter. There's always some synergy there that you can work with. So yeah, very, very collaborative, kind of very relaxed, very laid back. I don't sweat the small stuff. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
life for living, right?
sounds like one wants to work for you, Jenny. What
I
are
hope
the
so.
big plans? Where are you heading? We know you have another 2 investments coming. Where are you going to take British attire? What else is in store for you?
So big plans for, I'd like to exit a couple of my investments ultimately. Probably there'll probably be a couple maybe in the next 18 months to 2 years. So those I'd like to exit, some which are a longer term investment. I'm well aware of that. So do some exits of those. And I think look at new investments as well, and just as long as they add value to the wider world, then yeah, certainly keep looking at that. But just keep living your life on a day-to-day basis. And I mean, I'm a proper gym bunny, so I love going to the gym and having that balance in my life. Making sure that you've got a healthy body, healthy mind, healthy working environment, good healthy living. So that's for me. I want to keep doing more of that. You know, um, keep yourself sharp. And British Tire, we've got ambitions for that to grow it to a certain level. And then we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's just lovely being able to work with those people again.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
excited about doing that.
Yeah.
Just having that real balance across my life, really.
Yeah.
That's what I want. That's my sort of big ambition. And
Yeah.
more skiing.
Jenny, so what would you like our listeners to take away listening to your story?
A few things I think. Probably don't sweat the small stuff. If it doesn't matter in 5 years' time, it probably doesn't matter. So take a bigger sort of helicopter view on it. Don't get too dragged down by what's happening on a day-to-day basis. Be a little bit more optimistic. We're like I said before, we're very privileged, and I think we can do more. And also just trust your gut, particularly for the ladies out there. I know it's difficult, but really, that's really served me well. Really trust your gut and do what you want to do. So there's probably two things I'd take away.
Thank you so much, Jenny, for talking to me today, for telling your story, for giving us so much insight as an angel investor and also as an entrepreneur. And we're so excited to see where else and what is going to happen with British Attire.
Me too. It should be fun. It'll be a good journey, and more stories to tell, I'm sure.